it last night. I want to spend some time giving you my thoughts on what I saw surrounding Tim Tebow, both on the field and the atmosphere and how he handled himself. And Jeff Massey and I at the Atlanta Bread Company were talking about this briefly this morning. It's not that Tebow's not accustomed to large crowds and a lot of media attention. Obviously, he is because of his time at Florida, where he won national championships, his time in the NFL, where he was a lightning rod for controversy because of both his play and his religious beliefs. And so everywhere he goes, cameras are on this guy, and he decides he wants to give professional baseball a try. The Mets sign him after a tryout. A lot of criticism about, here's a guy, you're giving a spot to him and costing somebody else in your organization a spot, and all the things that you hear when something like this happens. And he knows everywhere he goes, he's going to be, for better or worse, the center of attention. And on one hand, you could say to yourself, well, that's not good, because that takes away perhaps some attention from some of the other guys who might deserve it. I would think that it might be just the opposite, though. I think that it might be easier to be a Tebow teammate and to perform on a team that he's on, because everybody's going to be paying attention to him, and you can go about your business by and large without being bothered. So there are two ways to look at that. But anyway, this is a guy who, everywhere he goes, record crowds in the South Atlantic League, as evidenced by the largest crowd in the history of Fluor Field for a Drive game last night. It's that way all over, and in fact, there's a belief that after the All-Star break, he very well could be promoted somewhere else, just so another Mets organization team can reap the benefits that Columbia has gotten at their home games this year by having him there. So he goes into each and every game, each and every series, knowing that that's going to be the case. And there are a lot of guys who couldn't handle that. But I watched him yesterday. I know that on Tuesday, the first game of the series, they had the one-time pregame media session that he would hold. And look, with everything that surrounds having Tim Tebow on that team, they've got to keep a tight grip on it. Otherwise, he would never get anything done, and they would never get anything done. So the mode of operation is they go into a series prior to the first game, about 2.5 hours before the first pitch. He does a 10-minute media session in the Fireflies dugout. And then as far as pregame goes, he's done for the rest of the series. So he gets that out of the way, but what he doesn't get out of the way is his interaction with the fans. And I watched this yesterday. I watched this guy sign autographs in the small window of opportunity he had before the game, played the game, and then I watched him as the Fireflies were exiting the field and going. They had to walk from the third base dugout all the way across the field and exit on the right field line and go into their clubhouse that way. And I watched him stop as everybody else is going on into the clubhouse and sign more autographs and make more kids happy. Now, obviously, he can't get to everybody, but he made a genuine effort to do as much as he could in the time that he had available. And he does that every single place that he goes. And I just think that he doesn't get enough credit for that kind of thing. He doesn't shy away from the spotlight, and at the same time, he doesn't make it all about him. And that's one of the reasons that the thing is monitored by the Columbia media relations people, and they have this set pattern of when you're going to talk to him and when you're not, so he doesn't get overwhelmed, so it doesn't become more of a distraction than it already is having him on the roster. And he handles himself the way that you would hope that someone in those circumstances would handle himself. I was very, very impressed with the time that he took with the fans at Fluor Field yesterday, and I'm assuming he did that all 3 games. As far as on the field goes, he did not start in the outfield. He was a DH in the game last night, and went 1 for 3 with a walk, scored a run, and drove in a run. So it was a pretty good night. One thing that I did notice, he does not get cheated at the plate. When he swings, he is taking a healthy swing at everything that he offers at. He does not take half swings. He's not timid at the plate at all. He is letting it rip when he gets up there. I also noticed that he bats left-handed, of course. The drive started a left-hander named Logan Boyd last night. Twice, Boyd buckled him with breaking balls and then didn't come back to the breaking ball again. And after watching literally, the knees buckling, him kind of ducking under, one broke over for a strike, one stayed a little bit up and in for a ball. But after, I thought to myself, and I actually said this on the air, if you see that as a pitcher, you see that as a pitching coach calling the pitches from the dugout, if you're a left-handed pitcher, why are you throwing him anything but breaking balls? Now, one argument would be, well, at this level, they're here to work on commanding all of their pitches, and they're here to learn. Well, part of the learning process is learning hitters and knowing what they can hit and what they can't hit, and the ability to recognize things like that on the fly. And if I'm Logan Boyd and I see Tim Tebow buckle in the left-handed batter's box at my left-handed breaking ball, I'm throwing that bad boy until he proves to me he can hit it. And the one that he buckled under that missed for ball 1 in his his second at bat when he got the base hit, that the one that stayed up and in, he then came back with a fastball on the outer half, and Tebow put a very nice swing on it and lined a base hit the other way into left field. And that's when I said this. I said, boy, after seeing the way he reacted to that breaking ball, why would you throw him anything other than breaking balls until he proves that he can hit it? But they didn't. He got the base hit. As I said, he drew a base on balls, went 1 for 3 with an RBI. So overall for him individually, it was a pretty good night. And it's kind of looking at the numbers, and it's what you would expect for a guy who's not played baseball full-time since he was a junior in high school. So he's 29, I believe. So you're talking 16, 17 years old, 12 or 13 years. He had 61 strikeouts coming into last night in just over, I think, 230 at bats or something along those lines. His batting average was 226. On-base percentage was bordering on respectability, however. It was 324 coming into the game, and he was on base 3 times last night. He was on base 4 times the night before with a hit, a pair of walks, and got hit by a pitch. So the on-base percentage is kind of creeping up and showing some signs of respectability. Look, I don't have any delusions of grandeur that this guy is going to make it all the way to the major leagues. I think of all the long shots out there, this is probably the longest of the long shots. But then again, this is also the guy who in his first professional at bat last year hit a home run. And so you don't put anything past him. You never say never where Tim Tebow is concerned. I'm just sorry, you don't. You say it's unlikely, it's improbable, but you never say never. I think the bottom line here is this, and I said this when the Mets signed him last year, and I continue to believe this wholeheartedly. I wish that my Reds had signed Tim Tebow, because regardless of how far he progresses, regardless of the progress on the field that he makes or does not make, I want my young players around this guy, because he is going to, just by the way he goes about his business, teach them things about work ethic, teach them things about how to handle yourself on and off the field, how to handle media attention if you happen to be good enough to go up the ladder and make it to the big leagues. There are so many lessons that these young players on the Columbia Fireflies are learning right now that they probably don't even know they're learning. They probably don't even realize that they're learning. But by observing him and watching what he's doing, the way he goes about his business, and yeah, that he's a Christian, they are getting a front row seat in how to be and conduct yourselves as a professional. He may never make it above Class A baseball, but if he doesn't, the impact that he's going to have made on all of these people around him is going to be a positive experience that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. That's why I wish he had been signed into the Reds organization. I want my young players hanging out and seeing this guy go about his business on a daily basis, and how he handles himself, and how he comports himself, and how he handles controversy, and how he puts in his time and his work ethic and all of the things that make him who he is. Say what you want to about him, whether you like him or not. I think most people who don't like him because of his religion. But whether you like him for that reason or you don't like him for that reason, the one thing you cannot deny is that the guy is a winner. And by being around him, young players are going to learn what it takes to be a winner as they move up the ladder. I want that in my organization, and I think the Mets made a wise decision and a wise investment, even if he never makes it above Class A baseball. That's my thought on Tim Tebow from what I saw last night. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, and we're going to have Cameron White. We're going to get his thoughts on it. This is the Dan Scott Show. It's Friday, and we'll return right after this. The show, of course, is brought to you each and every day by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. The Atlanta Bread Company